Cybersecurity, just one of the big topics of discussion in Washington today between President Obama and China's President Xi Jinping. And it seems a mutual understanding was reached.
We've agreed that neither the U.S. or the Chinese government will conduct or knowingly support cyber-enabled theft of intellectual property, including trade secrets or other confidential business information for commercial advantage.
This is certainly not a far-reaching agreement, and concerns about China and other nations do persist. For more now, Timothy Eades joins us, CEO of VArmor. It's a data center security company. Welcome to you, and what was your reaction to the news conference today?
Well, it's great to be here. It's fascinating. The cooperation is really important between governments and private enterprise, and even security companies to try and improve, the security response to cyber attacks. But it's a first step. And honestly, I don't think you're going to see any real change in this escalation of breaches. Because what you have to do is look at your security approach a different way. So it's great that they're cooperating. It's a great first step. But you've got to look at security differently. And so let's start with this. But you're still going to see breaches escalate every year until you start looking at something differently.
I have a question. Tim, it's Evan Newmark. What is the purpose? If you are the Chinese government, you always read these stories about, the Chinese army was hacking or, there was some cyber invasion somewhere. What is the objective? What is the purpose of the Chinese army or of the Chinese government actually trying to steal, tap into American software of any form?
So, it's a global threat. So it's not just one particular nation. The attacks come from all over the world, and even Americans attack American infrastructure. So
but my question is, if you are the Chinese, what are you trying to achieve by doing this? What is your objective?
The objectives of the criminals, ranged in the old world. It used to be glory, right, where they wanted to get their name up in lights. Then it went to money, which was quite interesting, a decade ago. And now you went into cyber terrorism. And so they want to disrupt and disarm and steal intellectual property and for their advantage. And
just for the disruption's sake, Tim?
It can be, it's once you walk through the network of a large enterprise for criminal behavior, it's very easy for a terrorist to walk through that same network, use the same footprints in the snow, if you like, for a terrorist activity. So Tim, you may start with that navigation, but it will escalate for sure.
Tim, one of my concerns, and I think this is one of the biggest concerns for the economy, but one of my concerns is that the foxes always seem to be smarter than those that build the hen houses. And I know what your company does is build hen houses. So how do we stay ahead of the curve, not only as a nation and a government, but how can we feel good that any cyber security software that we buy is going to be ahead of the curve?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. So it's obviously, it's a battle. It's a very interesting battle as well. I mean, the best offense is a strong defense. And so what you have to do is you have to look at how you secure your assets in a different way. These days with things like the cloud, your data is more distributed. So you can't rely on these old products that people are buying. Most of the public companies today were invented before the iPhone. Mobile is a whole new attack surface. So you have to look at a new type of security protection because your data is so distributed.
Understood. Tim, when attacks do happen, though, are sanctions appropriate? Is retaliation appropriate? Or am I asking a question way above your pay grade?
Oh, no. I think sanctions appropriate, reactions. It's very hard to find and identify the real attacker. If you're trying to put... If you're the cybersecurity chief at a large bank and you're relying on cybersecurity sanctions to feel safer at night, then hope is not a strategy, and trust that those sanctions are going to work isn't either. So I would kind of think that they're relatively pointless if you're trying to protect your own business.
All right. Tim, thank you. Tim Eades is the CEO of VArmor. He'd know as much as anyone.